Hey there, everyone, and welcome to Echo Base TV, where the Force is family. I am Master Paul of the Star Wars games, and joining me today for this video, I have...
Me, Jakejames Lugo.
Yes,
How's it going, everyone?
yes. So this was an idea that we came up with last week in the chat because me and Jake here, we both are big Kingdom Hearts fans. In fact, we both each own one of the Keyblade weapons. He has his on the wall. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see it. There you go. Two
Yeah.
keyblades.
But we decided that we wanted to do something together involving Kingdom Hearts. So we've talked. We have each made a top 5 list of our top 5 favorite moments from the series. So without further ado, James, would you like to go ahead and give your honorable mention?
Yeah, so I guess I could say my first real honorable mention, I guess say it's like a really big moment for the franchise, is the first time when Sora leaves Destiny Island. It's that big confrontation between him and Riku at the very beginning of the first game. Well, it's like the pretty much the very beginning of the entire experience, but it's like, when you're playing for like a little bit and you do the stuff on Destiny Island. It's the first time when Riku extends out his hand. It's the same thing that you see in the cinematic for the most part. But that's a big moment because that's also the first time that you see the Keyblade. It's also the first time you're really introduced to the Heartless, right? When everything starts to go crazy before you go to Traverse Town. So for me, that's a cool moment. I mean, it's not as big as some of my other moments that I would really go to as like my best, but it's a really good one.
Okay. My honorable mention is Saïx's redemption in Kingdom Hearts 3, pretty much just because I'm a sucker for a redemption story. And I sort of knew this was gonna happen when I realized that there was that friendship that he had with Axel before the events of the Organization 13 stuff, and they weren't just going to completely abandon that. So seeing it actually play out, I really, really liked.
Nice.
So with that, your number 5?
So my number 5, I would have to say it's kind of a cheesy one, but a fun one from Kingdom Hearts 3. It's actually that big monologue that Woody has when he's with Sora and he's fighting up against the character. No, you gotta understand
Yes.
that's a memeable / really resonating moment with the Kingdom Hearts fan base because that's like the sickest burn that we have in the entire franchise, like straight up. It's I don't remember it word for word, but if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look up on like YouTube or play the game for yourself and go to the actual Toy Story worlds and go to that boss fight, and it's just the sickest straight up just burn that Woody gives to that character. It's crazy. It's one of the Organization 13 members.
Yes, it's absolutely incredible. One of the lines that he says is like, "My guess is no one's ever loved you before."
Yeah, because you have no friends or something like that. But it was
exactly.
Like the sickest burn. That was savage.
Yes. It was perfect. All right, my number 5, and full disclosure, I've chosen sort of a balance of storyline moments and gameplay moments, and this one's kind of a bit of both, and that is Ventus versus Vanitas in Birth by Sleep. This boss fight kicked my butt a lot, but I still enjoy it because it's a very atmospheric fight, basically fighting in sort of dive to the heart area. And it's completely removed in that sense from what's going on also with Terra and Aqua taking on Xehanort and Vanitas in the real world. And of course, we can't forget Braig was there. But seeing that happen, and of course seeing the Keyblade with the X, but in its broken state, was pretty cool to see. And then at the very end, where you're hitting all those quick time events and you're almost sort of fusing your weapons together, that was a very cool moment.
Nice. Good one. So for me, next one would be number 4, right? Or no, we're on number...
Yep, number 4.
Number 4. So number 4 with me is a little weird because the moment I chose is at the same time as another moment, so I'm kind of pairing them together. It's the moment when we see Terra finally kind of lose his will, lose his heart almost, where he becomes his armor pretty much becomes the quote-unquote lingering will. But it's at the same time when Aqua gets thrown into the world of darkness, basically, where she pretty much saves his will during that whole fight. It all happens
Mhm.
at the same time because there's a lot of concurrent events in Birth by Sleep. But the reason why I chose
Yes.
those two instead of the one with Ventus, because I feel like those two are the moments, or at least within the series, as Kingdom Hearts as a franchise, where the heroes lose. Technically, when you really think
Yeah.
about it, they really lose because we see the origin of the Lingering Will because we didn't know what that was from Kingdom Hearts 2 for like the longest until we played Birth by Sleep eventually. But also Aqua, because Aqua, being the real big hero or heroine of the three within that story, she also technically loses. And there's a lot of stuff that happens after that whole series of events that goes down with her. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it is. And it's also the origin of the dark figure, the big
Yeah.
muscly floaty guy that stands behind Terra and Ansem the whole
Yep.
time. All right, so my number 4 is the summer break of opening scene of Kingdom Hearts 2. So just picture this scenario. You are a teenage boy going through what would be the last week of your summer vacation, but all around you, the further into the week you progress, the reality just starts breaking down around you more and more, and you realize that you're living in a simulation, and you realize you're not even supposed to exist to begin with, that your heart is actually half of someone else's heart, and they need you back. That is pretty much that whole experience in a nutshell. And add on to the fact that Roxas is my favorite Kingdom Hearts character because 358 over 2 days was the first Kingdom Hearts game I ever played, even though I don't have a moment from that on this list. But just following him through this reality shift, we'll call it, was the right ways, I'll say.
Hmm. And it's funny you mentioned that one because that one technically is my number 3. And it's not the whole summer vacation. It's not the entire time you're with Roxas. It's specifically the end for me because the end not meant a couple things as a fan playing that, especially playing it around release. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
the build up towards getting back to playing with Sora was really, really stretched out. Like they really elongated that whole section. I think it's to a
Mm-hmm.
detriment of the game's experience because I think you spent a lot of time with Roxas there as like a prelude up to the point when you finally get to Sora. And a lot of that stuff, I think, is if you didn't play Chain of Memories, you don't have the other build up and the whole like setup for why that is. But also, I
Right.
think that going from Kingdom Hearts 1 to Kingdom Hearts 2, if you didn't have a GBA and you skipped over Chain of Memories, you just wanted to get back to the character that you knew, which was Sora, Donald, and Goofy, like that. But when you finally do get it, and then later on when you think about it and you see in combination with all the other stuff that happens in that game, you realize how pivotal that moment was. And I think that, to me, from Kingdom Hearts 2, is I was going to pick a different one. I was actually going to pick the fight between Roxas and Riku that happens there because that's also another big moment. But I think this one is a lot more of an emotional and a real big fracture point for the series, or at least, that specific moment in time.
I agree. My number 3 is the final Xemnas fight in Kingdom Hearts 2, specifically where it's just you and Riku going up against him
It's like the big
in
Dragon
that
Ball Z fight, pretty
not
much.
yeah, not the scene where it's the big dragon, but the
Yeah, it's
one
the
where
one
you're
that's
in
white.
the yes, that
Mm-hmm.
one.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had to pick like one moment from within that fight to really just exemplify what that whole fight it's about, it's literally Sora and Riku going Jedi mode on all of Xemnas's blaster bolts. Look
Yeah,
this
when
up.
they're just like
Yeah.
deflecting everything. It's
Yes.
a Dragon Ball Z fight, practically, is what it is.
It is. It's just a great fight, and it's literally isn't.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Okay, there you go. Yeah, you broke up there for a second, but yeah. So my number two is a big moment in Kingdom Hearts 1. It's the first time you actually see Sora, Donald, and Goofy fight because not only do they meet up with him the first time, that's when you fight or right before you fight the armor boss fight in what is it in Traverse Town, in that
Mm-hmm.
big section, that big square in Traverse Town. But specifically right before then, when you're fighting the smaller Heartless, and it has like the music matching up, which is again Night of Fate. It's not the original battle theme that you get in Traverse Town when you come back to it later on. It's that same one that you got when Sora was leaving Destiny Islands. To me, between fighting with Donald and Goofy for the first time, that's when Kingdom Hearts really became a thing for a lot of people. I think that's the moment in the story that's like really pivotal.
Right. When these characters, when this
They all
one
come
little boy
together.
that you're
There's that big
playing as,
shot of them
yeah.
just together, and they're like, okay, let's go. And then you get into that fight.
All right. So my number 2 from the same game is the final boss gauntlet of Kingdom Hearts 1. So there's 4 bosses that you fight. 2 of them are the same guy. One of them is a refight of the very first boss you fight, and then the last one is this giant spaceship thing that it's hard to describe. Just look it up. But that whole thing kicked my butt again, but it was an amazing battle. Honestly, it's my favorite end game sequence of all of Kingdom Hearts.
That's interesting. So my number one then now at this point, like my number one pick, it to me is such a stretch above all my other picks for various different reasons. Because I love a lot of the final battles for all the games, but this one is not even a final battle, but it's a real big moment that for me not only exemplifies what Kingdom Hearts is, but also ties everything about what we love about the series together in a nice like one section that they just never really matched up to again. And that's the Battle of the Thousand Heartless in Kingdom Hearts 2. That's when you not only see right after the moment that Goofy, quote unquote, looks like he's killed, which, you know, brings out the dark side in Mickey and everybody's and Donald's like, let's go. He Leroy Jenkins. And Sora too, but really Donald's the one that because he goes wild. But like when you see Mickey pull it off, and he's like, "Oh, okay, like here we go." But what makes that fight so special, and that whole like couple minutes that you go spending fighting the Heartless, is that not only do you team up with Donald and Goofy, you also team up with all the Final Fantasy characters that are in Hollow Bastion. And to me, that was such a huge, awesome moment. Like going back and replaying that again, I did it for when I did my video review of Kingdom Hearts 2. Just looking at that whole section again was just awesome. They have never really truly matched up another moment, in my personal opinion, to that moment, because that was pure Kingdom Hearts right there. It was just awesome.
Yes, it was. So my number one is seeing Roxas, Axel, and Xion reunite in Kingdom Hearts 3. Because as I said before, 358 over 2 days was the very first Kingdom Hearts game I ever played. So I grew up with these 3 characters here, and that whole game basically drives them apart. Kind of a similar situation to what Birth by Sleep is, arguably with more... Arguably, depending on which game you played first, with more sad results, because Roxas gets put in the simulation town.
Xion gets forgotten.
Xion dies,
practically,
and Axel is left on his own.
Yep.
So seeing the 3 of them reunite in Kingdom Hearts 3 was like, that was the moment I was looking forward to the most playing that game, and it did not. As someone that might like Birth by Sleep more than 358, I can understand if you prefer seeing Terra, Aqua, and Ventus reunite over these 3, but for me personally, this is it right here.
I thought it was a cool moment. I thought that personally, again, I'm of the mindset of that I like the other triplets together, or the trio a little bit better of Aqua, Ventus, and Terra. But that was still a pivotal moment, because one thing that you got to admit about Kingdom Hearts 3 is that it had a lot of fan service in some things. You know, not all the fan service that I wanted, because I criticized the game heavily for it at the time on release. But like little moments like that, I felt like that was just purely for the fans. Straight up.
It's the equivalent of seeing Luke Skywalker come back in Mando Season 2, I think.
I don't know if it's that big, but it was big enough for fans of Roxas. I think that was big enough, because there was other things too with it.
Count me as one of them.
Too much into spoilers, but like there was other things that led up right up to that thing that they kind of like foreshadowed a little bit.
Right. That is our top 5 favorite Kingdom Hearts moments list. Anything you want to say before we end this video, man?
Yeah, just thanks for having me on here to talk Kingdom Hearts. Again, it's an awesome franchise. I've been with the series since the very beginning, since like the first release of the first game. I've written about it professionally, covered it. I actually had the ability to actually interview one of the producers of the games, Hironori Okayama, who did the producing for Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key and Union Cross a while back. Nice. So that was fun to do that. But I love the series. The series is just so much fun to follow and just play through and enjoy.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely amazing. If I'm gonna go look up that interview now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can find it. It went viral. And I also interviewed Richard Epcar, who's the voice of Ansem. Everybody knows that. That's
right. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Make sure to subscribe to Gamers with James so you can see more of what JJ has, and of course subscribe to Echo Based TDS stream, and of course check out my channel, the Star Wars Guys, where This will likely get reposted after Echo Base TV. And just remember, guys, community happens at Echo Base TV, and the Force is family. See you guys
Yeah.
later.
Later.